Ajax have started their Champions League campaign with an impressive 2-0 win over PSG. So let's talk about it. The long-awaited Champions League group stages finally kicked off recently. Match day 1 definitely had a lot of drama, a lot of events that took place. You had some pretty impressive wins from SK Brann, Hacken, Frankfurt, a goal fest actually, from Lyon and Barcelona. A very impressive comeback from Roma to equal things with Bayern and get a very, very important point, and some pretty terrible refereeing in what was a Real Madrid-Chelsea 2-2 draw. But today, we're not going to be talking about these games. We're focused on Ajax's 2-0 win over PSG. Ajax's journey since they were founded and the story that they wrote against PSG is one that's really, really special to the history of the club. The most famous club in the Netherlands became the first ever Dutch team to play in the group stages of the UEFA Women's Champions League, and that within itself was such an important step and moment for Dutch football, for women's Dutch football. A lot of these fans definitely saw their Dutch team win a Euros not so long ago, make it to the World Cup final not so long ago as well, but they needed to see that on a regular basis. And I think the Dutch league is a very, very fun one that is consistently producing really, really great talent for many reasons. We're not going to be talking about those reasons today, but we would see why those reasons are happening when you look at a team like Ajax. A quick run through of what you would expect to see when you watch Ajax would be Ajax's tactics really over the last 3 or 4 years kind of revolve on keeping the ball on the ground, not many loopy passes, not so many crosses. Like you'd see that occasionally, obviously in a football match, but their overall tactics keep the ball on the ground. They put together a lot of long sequence of passes that leads to a lot of attacking opportunities, either from the wings, either from a lot of cutting through the lines, breaking lines, which you very much evidently saw against PSG, and we'll break that down very, very soon. But wanting to maintain and execute a really good style of link-up play football, that requires a lot of communication, a lot of teamwork, a lot of dropping down to receive the ball, opening options for yourself, for your teammates. It requires being constantly in the move, and players occasionally, Ajax, when you look at their numbers in terms of both in Europe and their league, they cover a lot of ground. Unfortunately, UEFA hasn't released how many kilometers the players covered. I can't 100% say that Ajax sit pretty highly, but I do feel looking at the teams, you would definitely say that Ajax's midfield covered a ton of ground. What you would see is their attackers work together. Those 3 units that are working together either stay up on the pitch, or when they have to drop down occasionally, they're dropping down together as a line. The defenders usually remain further back. You don't really see any of the Ajax defenders making that run into the midfield because they're not having to rely on big loopy passes. So when the defenders don't really necessarily have to push up very high, they're able to kind of cover the spaces in behind and allow the midfield do their work. The midfield is where Ajax's excellence happened against PSG. Ajax not only were better on the day, looked like they wanted to win and were absolutely non-stop focus hustle, but they also tactically edged PSG. And so today I'm going to be breaking down how Ajax were able to beat PSG. So let's get cracking. What Ajax is really, really good in doing is their player-to-player marking. This caused plenty of trouble for Arsenal and Frankfurt in last year's qualifying for the Champions League, and it was exactly what PSG could not break down. Now again, this play-to-play marking is high risk, high reward. If you're losing your marker and if PSG is able to lose the marker that's on them, you pretty much leave a lot of the spaces behind, your players are out of shape, and it leaves you to just being completely exposed. So player-to-player marking, you need to be very well drilled, and your players that are not specifically marking a player need to have that area to come up and support you. So this is just a few moments that you saw here in the first half where Ajax just simply did not allow PSG to breathe. They suffocated them. This moment here, you see the PSG midfielders completely closed off. All 3 of them are pretty much blocked out. Sure, you see a 3v3 lineup there. Great Skuyoro in the middle. You did see her occasionally pull up. But without that service to the attacking players, you're not going to have attacking threats. So Ajax here did a remarkably good job in blocking and suffocating that PSG midfield, as well as having 2 players that were there to offer support. Lily Johannes is a player that I will continuously highlight today, and I will definitely get to talk about her towards the end of the video. But I mean, you will see that she has a very, very important role in Ajax's both pressing, their player-to-player marking, and production of passes, which is what led to the first opening goal. This was another moment here where PSG had possession in the middle of the pitch, not on the flanks, but still their options were limited. Their 3 players up top were completely covered. You can see there's 2 players again offering support. Down here, again, you do have a player that is covering the opening that you'd want your player to run to, and there's another defender also ready to occupy and defend that place. A little bit more of the left flank here, which is what PSG occasionally enjoyed coming from. Again, a lot of the options are man-on-man marked. Behind is a supporting midfielder. Also in there is Shirta Spitza dropping down, the player of the match. We'll also get to praise plenty of her in the game. But she's dropping down here, I mean, across those 3 moments, on the left wing, in the middle, again, back on the left wing, there's not many options for PSG to go through. And there wasn't a lot of movement trying to lose that marker, which seemed a little bit odd. And I think Ajax, again, tactically approached this with a lot of bravery. They were focused. This takes a lot of focus. This takes a lot of good spatial awareness. But also PSG didn't make it challenging to get there. And this was kind of the narrative of the first half, and more so the game, is that Ajax had a fantastic day. Like, this was a great day in the office for them. And PSG, they were simply too weak all across. Katoto is going to be a very, very hard player to stop. But again, you didn't see that dynamic movement of her losing the defender, losing the marker, which again, it could be a bit of a curve after an injury, but you didn't see that with any of the players. Another moment here towards the end of the half where PSG was already down, but PSG actually caused a turnover. They win the ball in a pretty optimal situation. But even when they are winning the ball, their players and their options that they want to go to have a bit of marking. Again, here you have a supporting player. Their midfielders aren't roaming around ready to get on a counterattack because the Ajax players are ready, they're awake, they know exactly where the players are, and they know exactly who they need to be marking. And it wasn't just in the midfield marking. You got to see some really neat in-box marking, almost sometimes looking like a little bit of a low block, specifically in the second half when they're trying to protect that clean sheet. But look at the in-box marking. I mean, where could they go? Practically not many options, and what you saw PSG opt to do was take a lot of long shots because they wanted to beat that. It looked a bit crowded. When they were putting in crosses, sure, they had a few of their PSG shirts in there, but they weren't moving enough to lose that marker. And Ajax was happy to be like, you know what, this is my buddy for the next 90 minutes. I'll stick around her and make sure she doesn't get the ball. And they did that very, very well. So take a quick look at this is how Ajax looked like more often than not when they were marking in the box. And this is how PSG looked like when they were marking on the box. This is actually the challenge that led to the penalty. I thought it was a horrendous challenge. I'm not sure why you'd go down and tackle in a box like that. But you could also see, like, I mean, Loicher is just calling for the ball there. It's that she makes her run in there again. Didn't need to make the run because it was a penalty. But look at that marking. I mean, it's open. That right here is a very dangerous spot to keep a striker who's on form, currently sitting as the top goal scorer for the Dutch league, won the Golden Boot. I mean, her ratio of goals to games is crazy. If I know there's a striker behind me with all these accolades, you bet I'm very much staying very, very tight to her. I mentioned Lily Johannes and I mentioned line break runs. This was actually the pass that led to the opening goal. Again, unfortunately, I can't play any of the videos. I can't play any of the highlights. DAZN will be after me and will take down my video. So for now, we're having to stick with screenshots. But Lily Johannes, I mean, there is no pressure around her. She's very much driving up there, looking for the players. And look at that. Ajax is very good in having their 3 attacking players in support of each other. So you've got your wingers, obviously, again, occupying a lot of space in front of them. But look at that line break. It's so easy. It's exactly between the defenders. Now, remember the shot. This is exactly the shot that led to the opening goal. We saw the exact same run with the exact same pass only 10 minutes prior to it. I mean, does that not look exactly the same? It's Lily Johannes on that same side of the pitch, a little bit further behind. And she drills the ball exactly where the striker is calling for between the exact 2 players. I mean, it is literally exactly the same. So it's not to say that Ajax knew this was a clear issue that PSG had, and running through those two defenders and having Lily Johannes drill in that pass was something they wanted to work on. But when you see that pattern happen twice before the opening goal, and for PSG to not pick up on it, it's poor from PSG, but really good from Ajax. Enough with enjoying how beautiful those two screenshots looked. But again, you have the three players staying on side. They're there in support of each other. And in this shot, in this another shot, very unorthodox. But then again, you did see Ajax have a few these long shots, possibly to kind of relieve the one-on-one marking in the midfield. But again, it's the exact same run between the defenders. They're way too much space. Look at the wingers are very, very happy there with so much room going on for them. Another fantastic play from the back. Again, so many options. The winger, always plenty of space around here, able to cut in. I mean, Ajax was really having a fun time. Look at all these line breaks where the attackers are just going in, and you have either a defender pull up a little bit into the midfield, again, given the player-on-player marking that they were doing in there, consistently finding these pockets, exploiting them, staying on side. I think often a lot of the players do see these pockets and can make those runs, but it's another trick to also make sure that you're staying on side. So Ajax did that pretty well. They spotted the openings, like I mentioned. Either it was a midfielder or a defender pulling up a little bit higher, given, again, the player marking that they were imposing. I mentioned earlier of what you would expect to see when Ajax is playing, but I said that you are going to see a lot of good passes, a lot of link-up play, and a lot of sequence with 10-plus passes. And you can only have that when your team knows how to pass really well. You have a good aim, you have a really good accuracy, and the general consensus around the team is everybody has a good eye for passes. And it's no surprise to see them do this well when they're seeing pockets against a team, again, that couldn't defend these pockets to save their life. Drill these consistently well put passes. Even though PSG had a little bit more possession across the game, a lot of that possession was circling passes in the back. And that's because Ajax, particularly in the first half, not so much in the second half, was pressing really well. And I'm not going to necessarily reference their qualification last year against Arsenal and Frankfurt, but that's exactly what caused Frankfurt and Arsenal a lot of trouble. It was the player marking and the press. I don't think Ajax was able to consistently keep that press across the different legs last year, but this year they showed that when they wanted to press and in important moments in that first half, they pressed really well. And again, Lily Johannes is in there. She's player marking, she's pressing, she's drilling passes. I mean, she is ridiculously good. PSG here is struggling a little bit with the Ajax press, and the Ajax press doesn't just press and then kind of slowly but surely back off. Like, they're pressing. This is 6 minutes, 39 seconds in. Again, Lily Johannes in there. I believe this is Jackie Garner. Can't really tell with the screenshot. Probably not. But Lily Johannes is in there. The ball goes back, obviously. But look where Lily Johannes is. She's dropped down a little bit, and then she's got two other midfielders supporting her up here. And I think this is the beautiful transition with a well-drilled midfield. And when I said midfield excellence, this is exactly it. This was 5 seconds in difference, but not only do you see the ball consistently, again, be passed backwards, which is not an issue. Like, sometimes this is what you need to do to break a press and beat it. But you see how well the midfield works together, how efficiently they turn around their press of, like, which unit is occupying which unit. Like, look at that switch. They've just put a triangle in there, locking in the PSG players. It's so smart and it's so great to watch. But that's exactly how Ajax was able to beat a very weak PSG side. PSG came in definitely not as focused as you wanted them to be. They did not want to engage in those physical battles as much as a European heavyweight team like them should. Very destabilized defending in the back. Players just not picking up on Ajax sequence that you got to see multiple times work for them. A lack of adaptability. It was weak from PSG, but from Ajax, it was midfield excellence. In the back, it was gritty. You know, this is not to say that Ajax didn't have chances that they had to clear off the line. There's at least 2 clearances they had to get off the line. The goalkeeper was brave and had to come out a few times. Their defense was resilient, and Ajax left with a lot of fouls, but this is what a team like Ajax would. I mean, they're ready to engage. They're ready to get really, really close to the players. And when you see a team that's mainly made of teenagers, and I literally say this in the nicest way possible, but like an 18-year-old or forget it, a 16-year-old like Lily Johannes bossing Grace Guioro and Jackie Gronin, like, it's just so good. Any neutral fan absolutely loves to see this, but for PSG, you can't be doing that. This is a perfect moment to reflect on Lily Johannes. She's the only American in the squad. She came through the Ajax Academy. Every single player other than her is Dutch and homegrown and likely came out of the Ajax Academy, and I absolutely love that. They've stuck to a lot of their values in trusting their youth academy and trusting the products that come through that. And a lot of the players, 17 of the players were born in the 21st century. Lily Johannes, I've said she's a 16-year-old, but to really put that into perspective, she was born in 2007. Like, when I was going through the birthdays of some of these players who are around my age, you're talking about this player who's an 18-year-old who absolutely bossed the fullback. This 19-year-old that had some of the best athleticism that you have seen in the Champions League. It is really, really good product that Ajax is putting out here. And I really hope this is not a shopping mart for future clubs and teams to come in and be like, oh, let's pick out this lovely player here. Oh, let's pick out this really good player here. Ajax obviously not only need to continue producing the names and the talent and making sure that youth academy structure and pipeline is as good as it is, but also try to keep the players a little bit in the Ajax squad. I mean, obviously the likes of Palova, for example, who was at Ajax last year. She's picked up at Arsenal and is doing fantastic there. So it's not going to be weird to see teams like Arsenal and Real Madrid and Barcelona and Chelsea and X, Y, and Z come in and pick up players from the Ajax squad. But I really hope that club and this team is able to keep their players there. Their head coach currently working with them. She worked with the youth academies for at least 4 or 5 years. A lot of the players that she's working with right now, she literally developed. And I kind of like that because it's a coach who knows these players very well in terms of potential and their best qualities. Because when you're seeing a player develop from 15 to 20, that age there, you get to see a lot of the skill sets that they are brilliant at, the skill sets that they sharpen, that maybe necessarily weren't as sharp 3 or 4 years back. And I think she's doing a fantastic job in getting the most out of these 18 and 19 and 20 and 21-year-olds. 22 striker up there too. And what I also loved at the same time is that she was working with Sharita Spitza, who's a 33-year-old player. I mean, she's the captain of the team. She's a vet among many rookies, and her leadership qualities are they're just so present. You see her delegating so much on the pitch, and she beautifully finished that penalty. I mean, obviously she had to take that penalty, had a really, really important line clearance. You could see her dropping in the back to defend and help mark. Like, Sharita Spitza, as a 33-year-old veteran working with a 16-year-old Lily Johannes, seeing that, and maybe this has just popped in my mind because I'm a Canadian when I was watching the game, but like, it was almost like a Christine Sinclair, Jessie Fleming 5 years ago. And I love that. Great. I hope Ajax continue to have a few shocks. The rematch will be interesting. This is not to say that Ajax is an unbeatable team. I think their inexperience can get to them moving forward down the line. And again, I mean, they have a very, very tough group. It's Roma and Bayern. Those are no easy names at all. But if they can do that and show that level of focus and that show of confidence against a team like PSG, I mean, they can give Roma and Bayern a very, very tough run for their money. And this is the group to keep an eye out for. Group C is, I'm nicknaming it as Group of Chaos because, seeing chaos, it just works out really well together. Let me know what you thought of the video. Ajax, PSG, some of the things that we went through, were those things that popped out to you when you were watching the game? I mean, how was your overall assessment? I'd love to hear that, as well as how have you enjoyed the game so far. Hopefully you're also going to see a little bit more activity on the channel now the Champions League has started. Unfortunately, it's been a lot of busy academic work, tests and midterms and whatnot. I definitely will be getting back on a much better consistency routine. So to stay updated and to continue enjoying the beautiful game, make sure you subscribe to me here on YouTube and follow me on Twitter. And I will see you later.